it show, it stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's gone, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with lies and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.
I know the truth is hard to swallow, just digest it. Suspected something's going on, chosen just neglected, deflected by some breaking news. Are we just accepted, expected just to fall in line and follow their perspective? Don't question their objectives, but I got a lot of questions. How these kids molested, but nobody's been arrested. Read it in the Testament, these children are protected. So I'm fighting all these terrorists, both foreign and domestic.
Hey folks, welcome to Truth Talk with Steve. Today I've got a gentleman with me I've been really excited to talk about. There's a lot of great things that he's uncovering and discussing and books he's written. And I want to welcome to the show today, Peter Serefine. How you doing, Peter?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Just real quick, a little bit about your background, and then I'll let you kind of add on to anything that I miss. But one of Peter's passions is for safeguarding the principles of freedom and justice has driven him to become an influential author and speaker. I guess the book named Trust Shattered, Cases of Government Betrayal is his latest endeavor to awaken society to the subtle erosions and rights of liberties that threatens the fabric of democracy. And boy, does that really hit home on where things are at right now. So what got you, I guess, to decide, man, it's time to write a book and take action and try to help wake up society, because that is a huge problem.
Well, right before Donald Trump came on the political scene, I started to look around at the world and think, man, something's wrong. Society's going crazy. The government's doing crap that the government has no business being involved in. And I thought, I got to do something. I'm a Navy veteran. I went in the Navy right out of high school. So
Thanks for your service.
Certainly. I raised my hand and swore that oath. And I've sworn that oath a whole lot of times in different ways. And I thought, I got to do something. So with the advent of all the modern self-publishing tools and things like that, I thought, anybody can write a book. I'm going to write a book. So I wrote my first book, and it was called Progress, Really? One Man's View of Social Progress in America. And all I did with it was I kind of looked back at things that are being considered progress during my own lifetime.
Yeah.
And what I see from when I was a kid and what I see now. It's a super short book. It's like, I don't know, 50 pages, 80 pages, 50 pages. And that was the first thing I ever did. And then
how long ago did you write that one?
Oh, I think that came out in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, 2019. I finally published it. And then 2 years later, my second book came out. But in the interim there, I had started to write blog posts, and everybody were like, no, nobody reads blogs anymore. You need to do a podcast. And it's funny because ever since I was in high school working at Wendy's and working the drive-through register, people were like, you got a great voice.
I was just about to say, you got the pipes for the radio or podcast. That's for sure.
Thank you very much. So I was like, I don't know, 16 years old, and people were telling me I should be on the radio. I was like 45 when I finally started to do anything with it. But I started a podcast. It was called Liberty Lighthouse. And then the podcast became a radio show, and I got picked up by a couple of the internet radio networks. And
cool.
And then I wrote a second book and a third book, and I started to do courses on the Constitution. And I was writing a weekly opinion article, and I was doing way too much for a guy who still has a full-time job. And I was like, all right, I got to give up something. I'm sure that I'm not doing any of these things well because I'm doing all of these things. Well, the big radio network I was on, Republic Broadcasting Network, they they like rearranged their time clock, and my time slot went away, and they offered me other ones, but I took that as the sign that
Fine.
the
Yeah.
radio show was the thing I should give up. So I gave up the radio show and I focus on writing now. I do a weekly opinion article that I post to Substack, and my Substack is called Liberty Lighthouse, just like the radio show, libertylighthouse.substack.com. Uh, my second, third books came out, and now I'm trying to push the fourth one. But a little funny little story. Just let's see, what's today? Today's Wednesday. It was probably Sunday. I was laying on the couch with my wife, and I. We've got an L-shaped couch where we could both lay there at the same time. And I was laying on the couch, and she had fallen asleep. So I grabbed my laptop, and I was doing stuff. And I thought, I'm doing all of these interviews trying to promote my new book. I should make sure all the links work. So I'm just searching for all of my book titles and making sure that I have all the links. I maybe once a year I do this kind of thing. And I searched for the one title so simple even a politician can understand, and it showed up on a book authority website, bookauthority.org.
Really?
Like, what's that? So I clicked the link. And this book, which came out 3 years ago, 2021, so simple even a politician can understand, was ranked one of the best politician books of all time
Oh,
by
wow.
bookauthority.org. That I was thrilled. I was like,
Incredible.
"Oh my God, I can call myself an award-winning author now."
Yeah, that's cool. Heck.
But this is a pretty awesome book. It's a collection of really simple ideas that either came to me or came through my guests on the radio show Liberty Lighthouse. And it's
Cool.
it's just what it sounds like. It's a bunch of really simple ideas that would go a long way to fixing a lot of our political problems, but they'll never happen because they're too simple. You
Yeah,
can't
exactly.
you
Yeah, my
can't fill them
ideas.
with pork spending and earmarks and back scratching because they're
No
too
kidding.
simple.
Yeah, I think the simplest way is probably just got to somehow get rid of all of them. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I think it's time to start over, start fresh.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you say, I think if most people had any idea truly the number of pages of most bills and all the BS that's in them, it would just
Anyway,
shock people.
I think that might be one of the things in here. I could be wrong. But one of my ideas has always been if the US Constitution, which sets up the entire framework of our government, can be written down in 4,500 words,
Yeah.
there's no reason for any bill coming out of Congress to be longer than 4,500 words. They
Amen.
put out bills that are 4,500 pages.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just hiding all sorts of nonsense. I mean, hell, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I mean, most of them don't even have time. They never read through them all anyway,
No,
They're
it's
so
not
dang long.
uncommon for a 10,000 page bill to drop on one day and they're expected to vote on it the next.
I mean, how obscene is that? That is just that's just unreal. And
It's not possible.
and we've just sat here, been asleep, and allowed it to continue on for decade after decade now.
I'm glad you said it that way. I'm glad that you said that we've been here asleep because I firmly believe that it's we, the people, that have screwed up in this process.
100%.
We, the people, took our eye off the ball. We got fat and lazy and complacent because we were too free and too profitable. And we were like, whatever, just let them do whatever it is that they do.
Yeah. I believe there's a lot of things they've done to help that, but I
Oh, yeah.
think if we're not taking the responsibility, like you just stated, we're fooling ourselves. Because I think that's honestly, so many people in the quote truther community, whatever you want to call it, it seems like they believe that Trump or whoever, the white hats, whatever you want to say, is coming to save us. And I've been saying for a couple of years now, it's up to we the people. I mean,
Exactly.
if there
Nobody's coming to
truly,
us.
exactly, and if there truly is some white hats, some good guys back there, which I believe there are, and if militaries, going to ever do anything. They're not going to do it if we don't do our part.
Right.
And I think that's where we're at right now. And I'm hoping that we're really close to a tipping point. I don't know if you saw this last week, but a gal named Mickey Clan, I don't know if you've ever run across her name, but she came out, her and some other ladies, but they came out when the mask mandates went into effect. She lives in Maricopa County, and so they came out with what was called Bonds for the Win and bondsforthewin.com, and they learned the truth, and implemented these affidavits to basically go to the school boards and read them, basically, what they're going to be facing, because they all have to have bonds, and they can sue them. Long story short, I think it was 2 days, Maricopa dropped the mask mandate, and it was, I think, 2 months. Within 2 months, the whole U.S. had dropped it. And last week, she was on a podcast doing a very similar thing, and it's called, I'm going to get it wrong, affidavitswarriors.com, and going into county board meetings, board of supervisors, and truly educating them on the fact that if they have taken an oath, that's a big if, they have taken it to the United States corporation, and they're there to let them know that everything they've been doing and are doing is fraudulent, and some of it's likely treasonous. And so they're giving them notice and then serving them affidavits. And each one to each member is up to, I think it's 1.5 million. And yeah, that video last week it blew up and went viral like crazy, because she talks about there's already 9 courts basically that, I mean, it's something you got to listen to. In fact, I posted it on this channel just so people would find it more often and easier. Even if one person runs into it on my channel, it's worth it, because she gives some serious truth and shows what she's been able to do, and it is being effective. And so it's amazing what this group of ladies has done, because they're learning what they need to know to truly go and stand up against this beast of a system that is pretty tough to stand up to, depending on what you're doing.
It is a giant beast of a system, that's for sure. I'm not a MAGA Republican. As a matter of fact, I don't even consider myself a Republican. I'm not a huge Trump fan. He did some things I liked. He did some things I didn't like.
Yep.
I have, over the course of the last 5 years or so, I've decided that I'm a constitutional originalist.
Bingo.
And I believe our government was the longest lasting constitutional republic and became the world power because of a constitutional government. And for the last, pardon me, 125 years or so, we haven't paid any attention to the Constitution, and that's why we're at our downfall. I firmly believe John Jay, author of I believe it was 5 of the Federalist Papers and first Chief Justice of the United States. John Jay said it's the duty of the citizens of any nation to read and study the Constitution of his country and to teach it to the rising generation, and teach the rising generation to be free. And that way they'll better perceive when their rights are violated. And that's the problem.
Wow.
As I see it.
I would agree 100%.
We don't teach the Constitution anymore. We don't read and study the Constitution anymore. Our government is stomping all over all kinds of rights.
Yep.
And most people don't even acknowledge it, don't notice it, whatever, because they don't read and study the Constitution as
exactly.
That's kind of where this book came from, actually. Trust Shattered.
That's an awesome
it's
cover,
a collection of like 45 examples of where the government has just violated its trust to us and trampled all over our rights. And there are no conspiracy theories in it. Everything in this book is something that the government has admitted to doing.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, 20 years after they got caught. But it's all stuff that's easily verifiable, easily provable. It's a 30,000 foot overview. I didn't fill it full of superfluous quotations and footnotes. It's not a big giant academic read. It's like a 200-page little short book that's 30,000-foot overview of basically why nobody should ever trust any government, including our own.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. It's the thing, they put you to sleep like this, and then you just blindly follow and do, and then just think whatever they tell you. They think you think they have your best interest when they never really have for at least 130 years, like you say, at least. And it's frankly, it's quite scary where we're at,
Yeah.
when so many people still really don't have a clue. That's what I mean. I get it, but I don't. You know what I mean? It's so dang frustrating that you can't even have a conversation about things in the world today without people getting all worked up. It's like, man, if I'm trying to speak to a family member about something, it's not because I'm trying to act like I know something they don't. It's because I care about them, and I care about the country, and I care about my grandkids' future. That's what it's about to me.
Well, I tried really hard to write this book in such a way that you and I, like maybe you'll read it and you'll learn a thing or two. I
Uh-huh.
don't expect you to be completely overwhelmed because you already don't trust government. But hopefully you'll learn something.
Oh, I'm sure it
And
will.
then you can take this book and you can give it to your most liberal sister-in-law, your most progressive coworker, and say, you know what, you mentioned universal health care. You think the government should be in charge of health care. Read part one of this book. Part one is Betrayed Bodies, and it's about 100 years of human experimentation without authorizations, human without permission. It's about how our government has completely ignored the lives, if not downright attacked the lives of its own citizens in the name of fear or science or military advantage or whatever their excuse of the day was. Have anybody read part one of this book? And if they still think that the federal government should be in charge of healthcare, then they clearly are brainwashed and there is no saving them.
Yep.
They one of the other one of the podcasts I do listen to, the host refers to liberals in two camps. There's the just don't get it and the never going to get it. And the
Yeah.
never going to get people just don't even bother. Don't argue. You're wasting your time and your breath. But the
Yep.
just don't get it people, those people are reachable. And I think that this book will tell you which one they are. If they read that part one and they still say, I don't care, federal government is the only way we can have free health care for everyone. And you're like, okay, you're never going to get it. Thanks.
That's great. What are some of the other things that specific, topics that you address in that book?
Well, all right. Well, let's start with part one. It goes through the forced sterilization